want to restore back human agency, that we want human freedom, but it's not just it's a freedom for something. And that freedom is for people to become empowered and actualize, to birth the higher type of human being. You know, for people to pick some great life project which they devote themselves to. You know, we need to have a paradigm for society about how do we want to transform politics into a democratic autonomy, to give people control over politics and the law as well, how we can bring law back down to an individual law. Maybe we can pioneer other forms of law that don't involve courts, that involve, for example, restorative justice, a sense of community, especially for minor judgments or petty crimes, about the culture, how we can restore back a kind of uplifting, heroic culture that really give people a sense of spirit, a sense of belonging to something greater, which give them a sense of purpose and position in life, about the economy, how we can give people, how we can enable people to have more control over the aspects of the life that affect them, how they can serve their own basic needs as a human being without needing to depend on a state, how we can elevate the role of agriculture, and also how we can establish community public institutions inside of the city which allow the flourishing of individual projects and initiative with a socio-political motive. So there needs to be a very comprehensive plan for all of the society, how we want to develop the society. And it's not necessarily that we will stick to that plan. Obviously, as events develop, we have to be flexible enough to respond to them, to reevaluate our older positions. But we do need to have some kind of idea about, when we see something, okay, what is our analysis of that? What is our conceptualization of that? And it's not just about creating ideas that gather dust inside of books. No, we need to actually gather groups of people, and we need to train those people in these ideas, and we need to organize amongst ourselves sets of projects or strategic areas that we see that we want to tackle in a tactical way and aggressively pursue them. We need to, on one side, we need to generate income. We need to be capitalists. We need to get the funds.
Got to survive capitalism.
We've got to survive. We've got to be a vehicle that is able to steer its way forwards. But fundamentally, because we're an idealistic, we have an idealistic mission, we're always more efficient with resources than capitalism ever is. In the Middle East, there's a movement of Kurdish people that have been fighting for their autonomy since hundreds of years, basically.
Where's this?
In Kurdistan,
Okay.
in Turkey, Iran, Iraq, Syria. There's also been a militia, like a guerrilla group, in southeast Turkey, and they started off as a nationalistic communist group, I guess national Bolshevism.
Mm-hmm.
But then, as they were conducting their fight, their ideas started to develop a lot more, and now they're kind of democratic confederalism.
Wait. They went from communism,
Yeah,
to
anarchism, like an anarchist,
but democracy.
democratic-
Democracy. So people are voting.
democratic confederalism.
Wow.
But when it talks about democracy, it
Right.
doesn't just mean a system of elections. It means something beyond just like a system that allocate the right to people to make decisions. Something deeper. It's more about the underlying principle for how we organize society, that every individual human being have their place in the society,
Mm-hmm.
have some sense of opportunity to reach their potential or power as a human being. Not everybody wants to do that, and that's fine. But the ideal is that as much of the society as possible is driven towards being that become the morale of the society.
So in this area of this region,
yeah,
the Kurdish region, is this philosophy? This is underlying philosophy of this area.
Yeah, so there was a guerrilla group, and this is when their leader went to prison. He started to study a lot of political texts.
Who is that?
Abdullah Öcalan.
Okay.
And he came out with a manifesto. It's honestly the best book I've ever read in my life. Manifesto for a Democratic Civilization. They're available on Amazon. And in those books, he began to ask the question, why is the Middle East so fucked up? The Middle East is civilization that has existed for thousands of years, which the origin of civilization, of all the major religions and philosophies, a place where many different ethnic groups and religions have been living side by side for thousands of years. Yet, for some reason, in the last 100 years or so, there's been this problem with ethnic conflict, sectarianism, genocide, religious wars, extremism, fanaticism. Why did that happen? And the conclusion that he came to is that this Western model of nation states does not fit the fabric of the Middle East, the mentality of people in the Middle East. So people in the Middle East, they have a loyalty to their family, to their tribe, to their culture, something that we've forgotten in England. In England, you know, my mum's neighbour of 10 years, we don't know those people. It's a very normal thing in the society to experience. You know, nobody know each other in the society anymore. Middle East is very different. In Middle East, everybody knows everybody else. You know, there's a very big fabric in the society. There's some downsides to that, you know, but there's also some very strong upsides to that as well, which is, for example, you know, you never ever feel like you're going to be homeless. You know, you can go anywhere and people are always going to welcome you in their homes. You know, that people have large extended families that look out for each other. You know,
so there's a real sense of community.
There's a real sense of community. You know, people live well. People have, you know, people kind of like engaged in a kind of civic fabric.
Are they still?
I'll give you one example.
Please.
1 year in England, when I was under house arrest, I saw more higher level of mental disorders than I did in 2 years in Syria in the war.
I have to ask this. What were you under house arrest for?
I have a terrorism investigation against me.
How's that going?
It's open, they don't say anything, it's just ongoing, it's just hanging over your head.
Why is it, why are they investigating you for that?
Well, you know, they don't have anything to convict me, but, you know, they wouldn't be investigating me if they didn't want to, if they didn't see me as some kind of challenge. So I guess I should take it as a compliment.
Sure. So in terms of the underlying beliefs of this region, are they religious or are they ideologically, philosophically driven? Like what's the underpinnings of this?
Well, the movement.
Yeah, the movement.
Some of the people are religious, some of them are not. The Middle East is a very religious place in general. But in terms of the movement, they're not religious in terms of being like Islamic or Christian, but I would still call it a spiritual movement. You know, they talk about how nature is something divine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's something outside of the reality that we can observe.
Is it like a new form of spiritualism, if you will?
Yeah, definitely. Like a real form of spiritualism. I don't see spiritualism as something real if it's individualistic. Real spiritualism is about devotion to something outside of the ego, outside of the self. And that means a sense of engaging with the world around us, the political reality we live in, to have like a plan of action, to have some kind of way of organizing in a coherent and effective way. You know, maybe in some ways that means making business, making capital.
You have to fund it, right?
You have to fund it, and that, the difference is that the capital is not going to our own pockets, or maybe it is. It's coming to us, but it's not for
the newest iPhone.
Yes, exactly. It's for something bigger, and it's every single moment we think, what is the biggest thing we can be doing right now to transform the world in the biggest possible way towards our objective.
What do you think the biggest hurdles for your movement and what you're trying to do are right now?
I think the left is the biggest hurdle. I think the left is sucking a lot of energy from good activism, good political revolutionary movements. It's become like a joke or a caricature.
What would you say? So in the U.S. right now we have a lot of political turmoil, and it's left and right divide.
Yeah.
Ideological, I guess you could say neoliberalism versus neoconservatism, maybe you could call it that.
Yeah, I'd call it religious revivalism, maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, some of it's not religious.
What would you say to, the audience in the U.S. is extremely entrenched in their polarized beliefs, as I'm saying it. What would you say to them that would unhinge them? What do you think would pull somebody out of that entrenchment? Like, how do you reach somebody on either side? It doesn't even matter if it's left or right. How do you get somebody out of the trenches? Do you have a strategy for that?
Well, yeah, I'm doing what basically we need to study the ideas of Öcalan. People need to go to Rojava. People need to, and I'm not just talking about going there on a holiday to hang out. I mean people going there, learning Kurdish, embedding themselves in the movement, thoroughly understanding the methodology of how we organize as revolutionaries, going to other countries around the world, forming groups of people, opening academies, training people in this way of acting, and
this is a very progressive way of looking at things too.
Organizing as a wider movement to be ready, prepared to exploit the coming opportunities that are going to present themselves globally in this coming crisis, which is going to happen.
What do you think is going to happen?
Well, every religion talk about Kali Yuga, talk about the end of days, talk about end of times. Buddha talk about 6,000 years after he's gone, people will forget about him. Which is the society going to a phase where materialism, where everything that's sensory becomes like the defining principle of society, and the dominant values become about like wealth, fame, success. Everything's utilitarian and hedonistic. Like reality is understood only as what we can see and touch and feel. There's like nothing higher or beyond that, and so that's when society started to eat itself up, started to cannibalize itself.
Loss of a traditional and cultural value, it sounds.
Yeah, which is where the right wing is coming from in Europe, and the left really need to understand that, because the way that the left is going now is just, it's going to finish. Left has become all about, it's like left has fallen into a trap of liberalism completely. And
not just in Europe, it sounds like it's, or from what I can see, also in the US it's happening.
The US even more so, yeah.
Incredibly.
Yeah, they have the presidency now. They're organizing, they're effective, they're getting into political power. Right wing is doing something. If I was a young person, I'd probably end up joining the right wing if I was white and local. Be like, oh, they're going somewhere, they're doing something. I had a lot of good friends now from left wing movements cross over to right wing.
Just because it's an idea that they just, is it they believe in it, or is it they just want something to believe in?
I think the problem with the left is they kind of for years dismissed this other group of people. They said, oh no, they're stupid, they're irrelevant, they're wrong. But then they kind of missed out that actually they had like a very similar critique of the society, and now they're bringing something to the table, whereas left has nothing.
They haven't delivered any goods yet.
They haven't delivered anything.
They've just delivered more commerce, more capital, more control.
More lifestyles, more subcultures, more funny music or fashion styles.
Kitten videos.
Yeah, nothing. Then the anarchism, you walk around, people dressing in torn clothes going, yeah, I'm an anarchist. It's a lifestyle. Hippie movement, you know, you see yuppies wearing expensive hippie clothes they bought off of I don't know, Zara or expensive shopping malls. Yeah. You know, the punk music is the pop culture phenomena.
The name of this series is called Surviving Capitalism. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you?
It means running away to the mountains to kind of hide out.
Hiding capitalism? Hiding from?
Yeah, just kind of like filter feeding and trying to get by. So you can just hoping things get better. I think things are going to get substantially worse. It's like anything history teaches us this. Mm-hmm. Anybody that tries to deny that there's going to be a larger wave of violence and conflict and suffering is completely deluded.
I think anyone who's working at the front lines of trying to help the world move towards a brighter future is going to have to get ready to deal with some punches, and is going to have to get used to and comfortable with being ostracized and laughed at and called crazy. So I
definitely feel that. I definitely have my huge amount of everybody trying to cut me off. Certainly,
it's traumatic.
You know, it's awful, and it's really incredible, but it's also an opportunity as well.
How so?
In the, you know, most people are ignoring this, but a small window is going to open itself.
You mean they're ignoring the current situation?
And ignoring the development of the situation, where it's fundamentally going towards, you know, like after Donald Trump, for example, got elected in England,
in the US,
a lot of anarchists started saying, "Oh, we need to go protest in the streets. You know, we need to stop this." I was like, guys, what are you talking about? You should be doing that anyway. It doesn't matter if Donald Trump or whoever's in charge. You're an anarchist. You're against the state.
When you talk about anarchism, and what your perceptions are of it, what does that really mean? What is it to be? Is an anarchist somebody just is out there throwing Molotov cocktails, say fuck this, getting drunk, or what does it mean?
No, I'm probably more like a libertarian, I guess. Although I don't want to start getting into this.
I just want a young kid to get an understanding of what that really means.
Well, it means like a society where, an optimal society where wealth is used for cultural development, for science, you know, where people can can go study in academies, where people can make agriculture, where there's a sense of community, there's something that's bind us together. People are free, people have control over politics. You know, for example, if you went to ancient Greece and you looked around, you'd say, well, how can they call this a free society? You know, they have slaves. The women can't vote. They can't hold positions in office. Like, I don't see what's free about this society at all. But if you took an ancient Greek and you brought them to the modern society, they would look around themselves and they'd say, well, how can you call this a free society? You know, you can't hold positions of responsibility. You can't address the nation on issues of great importance. You don't even defend yourself in a court of law. In fact, in ancient Athens, they had a law that banned lawyers. It made it illegal to have a lawyer. You know, you don't even defend yourself. You have a military, professional military, and a police to defend yourself. How can you call this a free society? And there's a saying that as soon as the citizens of Athens desired to be free from responsibility, they were never free ever again We want to get rid of authority, of financial predatory capital. We want everybody to be able to have some economic and political control over their life.
How do you see that happening? Like, considering that the banks control money, big industry owns the land.
We need to organize as a movement, and we need to use every mechanism at our disposal, economic, cultural, and political. It's time for people to study, to prepare themselves, to create organizations, to recruit other people, to develop those people around them, to develop their followers, to organize with other groups of people, and to have a plan of action for how we want to transform the society. For example, if we use the municipalities, we get the ability to use the power of the institutions to be able to spread our ideology or our beliefs inside of the police, inside of the educational institutions, to make it mandatory as part of the requirement for working in these jobs or sectors of society. We get financing, we get a budget, we get buildings that we can use to establish more academies. We can recruit young people, and there can be different programs or different projects for people to work on as part of a wider program of transformation of society. The problem with a lot of activists now, for example, this libertarian municipalist movements that are popping up all over the place, they think they can just take over the municipalities and they can use that to give people a bit more housing, to create more community, to create some assemblies here and there. It doesn't work like that. You need to found academies, and you need to recruit disenfranchised youth into these centres of learning. You need to prepare them mentally and physically, and there need to be projects that are defined as a wider organisation, with also some space for individuals who have a different idea of how they want to do things, some space for experimentation, so that, and then that you as a wider group try and support, and at the same time, a lot of people, they go into something, they're looking, okay, what do I do next? They're waiting to be given something to take charge of, to be able to.
They need a role model or something.
Yeah, they need a, within like a wider group. Some people, they have this internal initiative, but some people it take longer to develop. They need to build up that self-confidence. They need to be trained. They need to gain that knowledge.
So it sounds like you've already done a lot of the legwork in creating academies or whatnot about this. If somebody wanted to learn more about this, where would they go? How would they find out more about what
they should search for Autonomous Polytechnics, which is our group, and they should also read about Rojava and Öcalan's books, Manifesto for a Democratic Civilization.
If you could offer any advice to anyone about anything in the world, everyone in the world, if you could say, share one thing, anything, what would you like to share?
Going to Rojava was an extremely transformative and enlightening experience for me. The overcoming great obstacles is what sharpen us and strengthen us as human beings. And for every great person, I wish nothing less than to suffer some huge burden.
One last question.
Okay.
Given the state of everything that you see in this world right now, how things are going, do you have hope for the future?
I see opportunities, and hope sounds too almost Christian, very kind of progressive. But I'm saying there's an opportunity, spaces that open up which we can exploit if we're properly prepared. If we're not prepared, those opportunities will pass us by.
Anything else?
No.
Thank you.
Thanks.